Okay, so let us move on to limit phenomena. You can see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So we have talked about premixed and diffusion flames both. So the discussion here we are basically focusing on premixed flame, but in principle it is also applicable to diffusion flames, but the division will be different. So we'll keep our discussion limited to premixed flames, and these are the limit phenomena. So basically we have talked about steady state processes. Okay, what happens when everything is steady? You have a nice stable flame. Then we talk about temperature and equivalence ratio, all that. Now we'll talk about what happens when you start a flame or when you extinguish a flame. Okay, so let us start with quenching. So this flame in a tube, we have discussed about this, right? You have used it for many of our examples. Now tell me what effect will tube have on the flame? So let us say we have a standing flame here. What effect will the tube will have? Tube has any effect on the flame or not? And if yes, what is that effect? What is this tube doing here? Anyone wants to guess?
Viscosity.
No, forget about this. See, let us say that just talk about combustion. Don't go into fluid mechanics. So anyway, viscosity will definitely it will have a parabolic shape. What about heat? Combustion we are talking about heat, right? So tube walls, sorry,
It will cause heat loss, sir, to the surroundings.
heat loss. So heat is lost through these walls. Will it have any impact on the flame? Based on what you have studied, try to remember premixed Marat and Lechatelier or any simplified theory. What heat loss will do? Heat loss will promote flame or it will try to extinguish flame. What will the heat loss do? Heat loss is
Try
good
Heat
to
for
loss
flame or bad?
will
extinguish
slow
the
down.
flame.
It's bad for the flame, sir.
It is bad for flame. So we studied Maillard theory. We said that heat conduction is responsible for continuing the flame. Okay, we said that. So these slides you have already seen. I'm just repeating those slides, these two slides. So in premix flame, when we talked about Maillard and Lechatellier's theory, we said that propagation of heat. This is the controlling mechanism. So heat loss is very important for flame. It could extinguish the flame. Okay. So let us say we have a circular tube. Okay. Now, what is the volume in which heat is generated? This is the volume, right? We have a flame thickness delta and area of this tube, cross section area of this tube. Let us say that is pi r square. Pi r square into flame thickness. This is the volume. Everyone agrees?
Yes, sir.
This is the volume in which heat is generated. Now I will talk about area where I am losing heat. That is the circumferential area. That is your 2 pi r. R is the radius of tube. 2 pi r into delta, flame thickness. So this area, but basically, this area you take around the circumference. That is called area where we are losing heat. Okay. So if I take a ratio of this for a flame, I am interested in what is the relative importance, what is the relative strength of heat generation and heat loss. Right. So heat is generated within this area and heat is lost from this area. So let us take a ratio. What we'll see. So ratio of volume and area. This should give us some length scale. So this is just these two numbers I take a ratio. So it turns out to be r by 2, or basically it is dependent on diameter. So we can say that quenching of flame, roughly we can say quenching of flame will depend on tube diameter or tube radius. Everyone agrees to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so basically how do we measure the flashback? So we use a premixed flame and we have a Bunsen type of burner. Now suddenly I stop fuel flow. So what will happen? The flame will go inside. Okay. The flame will inside the tube. This is called flashback. We have already discussed this, right? So if the flame propagates back to the fuel supply source, then it is called flashback. Now what we'll do is we'll reduce this tube diameter. Okay, so for one particular diameter we observe flashback, then we reduce it and we do another experiment and see if it is flashing back or not. So by this we get to a minimum tube diameter where this flame is not going back, it gets extinguished. So that is called quenching diameter or DT. Okay, quenching distance or quenching diameter where flame is not able to flash back. The diameter DT which just prevents flashback. If we have a slightly bigger diameter than this, then it will flash back. If we have a smaller diameter than this, then it will not flash back. Is this clear? How do we measure DT?
Yes, sir.
Fine. Moving on. Now let us look at the theoretical derivation. So for the critical diameter or critical flame, what we can say is that this is the heat generated. Okay, Q triple prime metric heat generation multiplied by volume. So this is the total heat generated by the flame, and Q dot, this is the total heat lost in conduction. So when I say I have a critical diameter, then these two will be equal. If I have a stable flame, then this is more. If I have a situation where flame is going to get extinguished, then this is more. But if I am talking about a critical condition, then this is equal to this. Now based on this, let us see what these terms have. So this can be expressed as, what is the, yes?
Sir,
Yes, any
here, sir.
question?
Yes,
Yes.
sir. The volumetric heat generated must not be equal to the, conduction outside, no, sir, because a fuel will start to burn only if it gets to ignition temperature. If we just make it so that the fuel air mixture does not reach that, but something lesser, then these two
No,
terms will not
okay.
be same, right, sir?
No, we are talking about quenching. That what we are talking about is ignition. So wait for a few slides, that will come. Now I'm talking about quenching. So let us say that we have, let us go back. We have a Bunsen burner and we have kept reducing the diameter. Okay. So at one point I got a diameter where the flame is not propagating back. Flame is getting quenched. So that critical diameter I am talking about. Why that flame is getting quenched? Because whatever heat is generated is lost to conduction. That is the critical case. That is the limiting critical case which we are talking about.
Yes, sir.
In general, what you said is right. If you have a steady case, then this will be more. This is mostly true when you are a normal or steady or stable flame. But I'm talking about a critical condition where the flame just gets extinguished, DT, at quenching diameter. So why quenching happens? Because this becomes equal. This?
Yes, sir.
Fine. So let us say that we have both equal. Then let us look at the terms. So volumetric heat release is equal to m dot f. This is the mass flow rate of fuel divided by heat of combustion. What is the heat generated by burning the unit amount of that fuel? Right. So this will give you what is the total heat produced using that flame. Now what about conduction? So conduction can be calculated using Fourier law. So we say minus Ka dt by dx. So whatever dt by dx we have at the wall, okay, that will give us net heat transfer. Flame is at a higher temperature, wall is at a lower temperature, so flame will lose heat. So let us talk about this dt by dx. So one simple assumption could be that Tb is the bond gas temperature and W is the wall temperature. So let us say, okay, so one simple assumption is like, let us say this is your Tb, okay, this is Tw and this is Tb. You understand what I'm saying? I'm saying that let us say that this is a linear variation. Temperature varies linearly from center of the tube to the wall. Then I can write dt by dx in this form. Is it clear? Not clear.
Wouldn't it be like the wall thickness instead of this? The temperature
Yes,
of.
we'll come to that. We'll come to that. This is not correct. I'm starting with a simple case that I will
Yes, sir.
tell you what is the proper. Okay. So but we'll not talk about wall thickness. We'll talk about the actual flame profile. Okay. So if you look at the actual temperature distribution, it will be something like this. We'll have high temperature to a large extent, and then we'll show heat loss. Okay, we'll have a large gradient here. So that is the real condition, which is shown in green. We have a large temperature which suddenly drops near the wall. We have a very large gradient near the wall. So this is assuming a linear profile, which is not correct. So what we do is we take the same equation and we introduce a parameter b. Okay, so by b we can make sure that we follow this profile. So that is the use of b. You can change b to get a correct profile. What you see in green is the correct profile for a temperature distribution in a flame. Is this clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Fine. Okay, moving on. So this is the equation we are talking about. This is the equation we are dealing with. Now we derived dt by dx using a parameter b. So what we'll do now? This is the equation we have. Now we'll equate these two. We'll say that m dot f into hc, which is here. Now this is q. What about volume? Volume is delta is the flame thickness. This is delta thickness of this flame. D is the diameter. Don't think that this is differential. D is the diameter of this tube. Let us say we have two walls. Okay, two infinite walls at a distance d. They are separated by a distance d. So d is that, and let us say that we have these walls are into the paper for L, thickness is L. Understand? So it is a 2D wall sort of thing. Let me draw it for you. So it is like this. It is a 2D wall. So this is L. Both the walls are going into the paper like this. Okay, this distance is L. So this is L, and then this is delta, and the distance between them is D. Is this clear to everyone?
This is for a rectangular frame profile, sir. Right, sir?
Yes.
I mean the cross section of the.
Yes, I'm talking about two parallel plates. A flame is there between two parallel plates. That's all.
Yes, sir.
Instead of a circular tube is little complicated. Let us take a parallel plate. Okay, so what will be the volume of the flame for this condition? What is the flame volume? So flame is, so you see XYZ coordinates, right? So flame is having a thickness of delta, right? This is the flame thickness. Flame, let us say that flame fills this area, so delta into D, right? What else?
Yes.
How much goes inside the paper? In this direction, that direction? What is that? L. So here we have this volume. Delta into D into L. This is the volume of flame. So Q, then volume is equal to, again I will write this, K into 2 delta L. This is the area. This is
Sir,
delta
would
L.
it require like four plates to sustain the flame? Otherwise, the ends of the flame will be open. I mean, the ends which are like into and out of the flame of the paper.
So that's what we are talking about. Like, let us say it is infinite something. So we are concerned with this area. Let us say two infinite plates are there. we are talking about, we have flame with L distance, so L we are talking about. That's the idea. See, it is like a very
Yes,
simple
sir.
configuration so that we can derive this equation. That's all. Okay. So using this gradient we got in the last slide. So now we are just equating. We are saying that this is Q, this is volume, and this is Q what is conducted. So this is what we have. Basically, we are using this equation to derive what is D, diameter, quenching diameter, in terms of your flame thickness or flame speed, or basically these parameters. Okay. So now let us also assume that temperature at wall is unburned gas temperature. So let us say room temperature. Wall is at room temperature. So using that, can we say if you take D, this D that side, D square, and then you divide all of it, bring it this side. So we'll get D square in this form. D square is 2 into kb, k into B will go up, 2 kb delta T divided by this mf. Is this D square is okay for everyone? How it came?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Fine. For heat of combustion, we can say this we have discussed in the simplified theory. We can say heat of combustion is nu plus 1 into Cp into delta T. So this is one way to express heat of combustion. If we use this formula and if we substitute it here, we can say that D is equal to 2 root B alpha into SL. Okay, or just we have to substitute and use these values, so you will be able to derive. Let us take it as a homework. You try to get this. If you don't get, then tomorrow we'll discuss. If you need to substitute what is alpha standing for. Okay. Using this and this, we can show that D is equal to this value. Fine. Now, also SL is related to SL and alpha related to delta. If you use that, then you will get this value. SL is 2 times of alpha, something like that. So if you use that, you will get this 2. So at the end of the discussion, we have 2 ways to represent D. D is, let us say, quenching distance or quenching diameter. And we can see, we see here that D is dependent on SL, alpha, the parameter B, and flame thickness. Is this clear to everyone? What is D and what it represents?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Fine. So moving on. So one more thing is that if you you're talking about heat loss here, right? So suppose I heat the tube, I supply heat from outside. What will happen? It will help the flame, or it will distort it. It will be good for flame or bad for flame if I provide heat from outside.
It will be good for the flame, sir. Heat
For the
loss
flame?
will be less.
So if we
Yes, sir.
provide heat, then I can say that I can increase, reduce this. So what we are seeing here is that if you increase the temperature, then your dt becomes smaller, which means that you are able to get flame propagation in a smaller tube, right? So initially you have, suppose, this dt, you increase the temperature, now you have this dt. dt is decreased. Everyone is okay with that?
Sir, typically our DT value is really small because in like the flat
Yes.
flame test we used sintered metals and all. There the diameter for each pore will be very less, right, sir?
So flame was not going into that pore. So flame was on top of that pore. So
Yes, sir. Oh,
if that, so dt means that flame will not go inside that pore. If that pore is smaller than dt, then flame will not go inside. If that pore is bigger than dt, then flame can go inside. That is the meaning of dt. So air or fuel was coming from that pore, but that pore was not, flame was not going past that pore. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Flame was not propagating through that pore. Flame is on top of that pore. Okay, so coming back, so two things are shown in this plot. One is how dt varies with phi. So dt is minimum for stoichiometric ratio around the stoichiometric, and then it increases for both rich and lean side. And another and more important is that if you increase temperature, you could have a smaller diameter. Okay, so for example, let me draw. So what I am saying is that suppose this is your dt for room temperature. So for room temperature in this tube I will get a flashback. Now if I increase temperature, there is a smaller tube which will also experience flashback. That is what is shown in this plot. Is this clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
dt is the diameter which just prevents flashback. That's all. Okay, now we come to an interesting question. So we generally when you see these values are not given, but dt values are in millimeter. Okay, dt will be some, let us say 5 millimeter, 10 millimeter, something like that. Now the question arises that the industrial devices we use. So that's what I'm talking about. Let me get a pointer. So dt is like, let us say 5, 10 millimeter or something. Now for various industrial applications, what we see is that tube diameter which is much larger than dt. Industrial application means will have some centimeters of tube, 5-inch tube, 10-inch tube, 2-inch tube. That is definitely more than dt, right? And there could be many applications where flame is present in a part of tube and you don't want the flame to go to other part of tube. So let us say, look at this figure. So let us say that here we have flame, but I don't want the flame to go here. So what can we do? How can we prevent flashback? This is much more than dt, but we still don't want the flame to go past. So what can be done? Anyone would like to guess?
Sir,
Force,
change the material in that area, the material of the tube, or provide cooling in that area to stop it.
Cooling could be one method, but it will not be very effective if the tube diameter is so large. Anyone
force,
else? Or something like that. You are close, but not correct. Any other guess? See, it is a big tube. Cannot I make small tubes here? Will that work?
yes, sir. I was thinking of that, but I said force.
So yes, then you should tell that. So this is called flame arrestor. Okay. So this you can see what are the labels now. So this is the exposed side. Flame is there. This is the area where we don't want flame to go, which is shown in blue. So we can have some. This is called flame arrestor. It looks like this. This is from an industrial application. So what we do is we basically provide a very large surface area. We can have smaller tubes, or you can have mesh, wired meshes like this. You can see this. So these are very small, and the basic idea is that flame is in contact with all these pores or holes, and the flame will start losing heat. The more surface area in contact with flame, the more heat it will lose. Right? That is what we have seen. So if you go to the derivation, okay, so this is Ka. If I increase the A to very large values, then I can extinguish the flame. That is the idea. I am trying to increase this area where heat is getting lost. That is the idea behind flame arresters. Okay, smaller tubes or mesh can be used, and we are trying to increase heat loss by increasing surface area of metal in contact with flame. Metal will anyway carry out the heat. Is this clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any question on this? No. Okay. So let us talk about Davy's lamp. So many decades ago, Davy invented one lamp. Okay, so that was very useful to be used in mines. Now the problem in mines is that you have gas leakage a lot of times. So you are going with a lamp, and outside also there is methane or some other gas. It could catch fire. So how to prevent that? Anyone want to guess here? Looking at this figure, how the flame inside will not go outside?
Sir, that meshed surface will act as a flame arrestor, not letting the
Yes,
flame out.
correct. So it will extinguish the flame. It will not allow it to go out. So that is a very important discovery for, especially for mining industry. Because of that, they could have safe. This is called Davy's safety lamp. So if you have any normal lamp, it will have flame outside. Understand this. Outside you have combustible gases. All everywhere there are gases which can burn. So you don't want those gases to burn. So you have flame, basically a flame arrestor surrounding the flame. So outside gases are not getting burned. That's all. So this is Davy's lamp. Now let us talk about ignition. So I don't know how much time is left. Let me have a check. Okay, we have 15 minutes now. So ignition, you know what is ignition, right? Let us talk a little bit technical about ignition. So have you taken the IC engine course, or is it next time for you?
We haven't yet taken IC engine courses. No, sir.
Okay, fine. But you know there are two types of engine: petrol engine and diesel engine, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is the cut section of both the engines. So how do we burn fuel in a petrol engine? We have a spark plug, right? This is where you see there is a spark plug which ignites fuel. Fuel will burn from here. Okay. What about diesel engine? I cannot see a spark plug. Can anyone point out how to burn? What burns? You understand? You
So,
LPG you have.
Compression.
Yes.
High compression.
How? So what happens
Its
if I
ignition temperature.
is reached? Very good. So basically these two engines are called SI engines and CI engines. So this is spark ignition. We ignite using a electric spark, which is here, and this is a compression ignition. Okay, so this is ignited using compression. Now let us see how that happens. And any other mechanism which can be used to burn other than spark? Has anyone heard of laser ignition? You see here laser beam. If you focus a laser beam, that could also ignite fuel. So this is actually a very recent development, but a lot of work is going on IC engines where people use laser ignition to burn fuel. So we have three methods. You can use spark, compression, or laser ignition to burn fuel inside an IC engine. Let us talk about your cooking gas in your home. How do you burn this? Using matchstick or
Right.
right? So what we see here is that different mechanisms where they could ignite flame. What else? You can also use sunlight. Has anyone done this? If you use a convex lens with the sunlight, it burn fire, burn paper or something. Has anyone tried this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is ignition. You are igniting the paper. Similarly, early men used to rub wood or flint stones. That will give you spark, which will burn your firewood. So, to summarize, we can say that there are various sources of ignition. Ignition could be auto ignition when we reach the ignition temperature, or we can also use high temperature gas jets. Okay. Or we can have electrical spark, which is shown in the IC engine what we discussed. Then We can also use a matchstick, ignition by flame, or laser ignition, or we have seen that rubbing of stones or wooden sticks. Adiabatic compression is also something which we mentioned, which will give rise to auto ignition. Shock waves will give rise to auto ignition, and sunlight focused by a lens, etc., etc. So there are various methods. Now, what is the physics? What is the basic governing mechanisms which tells you whether it will ignite or not? Okay. So Williams has given some criteria. So he says that criteria 1 says that ignition will only occur if you are adding energy, right? So if you add enough energy to the gas such that a slab as thick as laminar flame thickness. Basically, he is saying that this slab should be thick as delta, and you heat that slab to adiabatic flame temperature. Okay, so what he is saying is that, let us talk about a tube. So in a tube, he says that you take a slab and you heat it so that it reaches adiabatic flame temperature. Basically, you are burning it, right? So that slab should be as thick as a steadily propagating laminar flame. So this long sentence basically means delta. This slab should be as thick as delta, and you have to burn. The criteria is that you need to burn that fuel, so you need to reach the adiabatic flame temperature. So this is one criteria provided by Williams. He also says that rate of liberation of heat is criteria 2. Rate of heat liberation or heat generation must approximately balance the rate of heat loss. Okay, that is what we discussed here. So for quenching, we talked about this. So this is what we're saying: heat generation and heat lost. What we have derived here in numerical form, that is what is stating in text form. This is Williams criteria, second criteria. Okay, so this is very important from a theoretical point of view or a historical perspective, but this is how he has defined. So these are the two criteria. Okay, so let us use and see how we can apply the same criteria for ignition. So basically we'll talk about minimum ignition energy. So let us say that you have LPG. You put a spark using your igniter. So you must provide some minimum energy, right? If your energy is lower than that, then it will not. You understand what I am saying? If you provide very small energy, it will not burn. If you provide very large energy, it will burn. If you provide just sufficient amount of energy, which should be able to burn. That is what we will try to forget. That is what we will try to calculate, and that is what is called minimum energy, ignition energy, or minimum energy required for ignition. Is this clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Right, so we can give higher energy also, but what is the minimum required which will just burn that product or burn that gas? So again, we will use the same logic. We will say that whatever heat is generated is equal to heat lost. This will give you critical condition. Beyond that, if you have higher conduction, then it will be distinguished. If you have higher this, then it will be stable. It will grow. Now, using the same logic, now here we'll talk about a sphere. Okay, so what is the volume of a sphere? Sphere radius R. What is the volume?
4 by 3 pi
4
r
by 3
cube.
pi r cube.
This is what you see here, 4 by 3 pi r cube, and R is R critical. So Q we can write m dot F into Hc that we have discussed previously. Now I am just substituting volume of a critical sphere at critical radius is equal to, again, pi r square is the surface area of sphere and dt by dr. Is this clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Similarly, for ignition, we say that this will be more and flame will be glowing. So just to calculate minimum or critical values, we'll equate it. Ideally, for ignition, this will be more. This will be more for the fuel to get ignited, for ignition to happen. But for the limiting or critical condition, we take it equal. Based on that, we'll calculate. So similarly, we'll derive what is R critical based on this parameter. So now what we assume is that this sphere is at TB. Okay. Hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
I think I lost connection. So we are actually we don't have much time now, so we'll stop now and let me repeat this. So we'll continue this tomorrow. Okay.